Okay, when I tell you that something is lighting up with an earthquake swarm in weird depth, I have to say, a zone that has produced a magnitude 7.5 earthquake, and only 3 minutes later, a magnitude 8.1 and a tsunami that was going across the globe. And this thing is doing something very, very strange right now. And in light of what just happened in Venezuela, we definitely have to look at that. I looked at these earthquakes and I'm like, that looks interesting and a little bit strange, especially when I look at the depth of these earthquakes. So something is moving again at the bottom of the world. And I'm not talking about Los Angeles, not underneath Japan, not even under the usual culprit, the Pacific Ring of Fire. This time, the signal is coming from the frozen edge of the planet, I have to say, near Antarctica. So beside the South Sandwich Islands, where the ocean floor, we have to say, basically disappears into one of the most remote subduction zones on Earth. And the strange part here with these earthquakes, I already mentioned it, is not just the magnitude, it is the depth. And I had this in my last video before when we looked at that Washington State earthquake. The depth was very, very weird. So here, we have several quakes, as you can see on the map. One quake is shallow, around 10 kilometers, about 6 miles down, and another one is more than 180 kilometers deep. That's over 110 miles deep beneath the ocean. So that means what is causing these earthquakes here is not just one surface crack. There's something going on deeper down. So basically, this looks like a stacked earthquake signal, basically from the top of the plate boundary down into the slab itself. So right here, what is going on? It's the South American plate that is being forced westwards beneath the tiny sandwich plate. So what is happening down there is actually that the ocean floor, it's bending, it's sinking, it's breaking, and it's feeding a volcanic arc that almost nobody ever sees. So they don't recognize that it's there. But this is where the story, we can say, gets darker. The South Sandwich Islands are not normal islands. I mean, subduction zone, when you have islands there, you might now, if you're a regular viewer, which I hope you are, or you become, click subscribe. Not normal islands. They are exposed tops of volcanoes. So there's more going on down there below. These islands, they're ice-covered volcanoes, remote volcanoes, and some of them are still active. Mount Michael may contain one of the rarest things on Earth, for example, a persistent lava lake inside a frozen sub-Antarctic volcano. Then we have Mount Belinda, has erupted for years, and in 2005, lava has cut through the ice and reached the sea. And even underwater vents in this region have produced floating pumice rafts that traveled thousands of kilometers across the ocean. These little tiny volcanic bimstones, brown beige, that can really cover the ocean surface, cause problems for boats, for fishermen. So when we see that the earthquake map is lighting up here in this area, this is not just something that we should ignore. It's basically the edge of a system where earthquakes, volcanoes, and deep ocean trenches and Antarctic currents and hidden plate motion all meet in one place, and almost nobody is watching it directly because this place there, it's so remote, so cold, and so violent that basically permanent monitoring is extremely difficult, as you can imagine. So much of what scientists know about these islands comes from satellites, very rare expeditions, and earthquake signals that are coming from there and then traveling through the planet so you can catch them elsewhere. But this cluster is really interesting, in my opinion. It's not because like a mega quake is guaranteed now. It's not. But because this is one of those places where Earth's machinery is visible for a moment, and then it disappears again under ice, ocean, and darkness. And we've had quite a bit going on in the recent days worldwide when it comes to earthquakes. So the South Sandwich region sits beside the Scotia Sea. That is an interesting area. That's a twisted plate boundary, basically caught between South America and Antarctica. So to the west is the famous Drake Passage. To the south is the Weddell Sea. To the northwest is South Georgia. And to the east is open Southern Ocean. And underneath all of it, all of that, the plates are absolutely not quiet. So the South Sandwich Trench, how it's called, is where the descending plate dives into the mantle of the Earth. Behind the trench, we have the East Scotia Ridge that is spreading the seafloor apart. In between, a volcanic island arc rises out of the ocean. If you're spreading it apart, you're thinning it like a pizza dough, gives way for the magma to come to the surface. And so that is why when we look at these earthquakes here, they can appear at different depths. Shallow quake can happen near the trench, the upper plate, or the plate interface, for example. Deeper quake can happen inside the sinking slab itself. And as the plate bends, basically dehydrates and compresses and breaks far below the seafloor, this deeper quake can happen. So that deep signal that we're getting here from one of the quakes is what makes this map with these quakes so interesting. It is like seeing multiple floors of the same underground machinery. So the top is cracking, the slab below is still moving, and the volcanoes above are built from the same subduction system. So the wider implication is not that Antarctica is about to split open tomorrow. I want to make that clear. The wider implication is that Antarctica's edge is far more geologically alive than most people imagine. So West Antarctica has its own hidden volcanic province beneath the ice with, listen to this, 138 identified volcanoes, many concentrated along the West Antarctic rift system. That is a completely different but equally strange tectonic world. So around Antarctica, there are absolutely many hidden rifts, buried volcanoes, submarine trenches, old slabs spreading into ridges, and plate boundaries that most people never hear about because they're buried underneath ice or water. And the South Sandwich Islands, this little group of islands, is one of the clearest places where we can see that this hidden activity is reaching the surface. So no, it does not prove that a megaquake is coming at this subduction zone. But this plate boundary, I want to make that clear, is active from the surface down into the deep slab. So the same system that's building the volcanoes under the ice is producing these earthquakes. And this is the same remote zone that produced a magnitude 8.1 earthquake in 2021. Now it's lighting up again with this new earthquake cluster. So as we see different depth, we see that this subduction zone is doing something. So we have to watch that closely. So 2021, South Sandwich magnitude 8.1 did produce a tsunami. If we hear subduction megathrust earthquakes or something like that, a bigger one, tsunami danger. It was not a destructive tsunami because the area is extremely remote and uninhabited, thankfully. But the interesting part is that the tsunami was global. It was recorded at many coastal sea level stations around the world, including South Georgia, Hawaii, Alaska, British Columbia, Mauritius, the Azores, and eastern Madagascar. The nearby King Edward Point tide gauge on South Georgia recorded about 65 centimeters, that's 2.1 feet. largest coastal amplitude was probably a roughly 2.5 feet. That's 75 centimeters. That is enough to drag you out in the ocean or to end you. I want to make that clear. You don't need 100 feet of tsunami to do that. And again, what's also interesting here, because we've just seen this in Venezuela, the first quake was a magnitude 7.5, and then only 3 minutes later, the magnitude 8.1 happened. I will keep you updated if this is a foreshock or if those earthquakes are a foreshock or if this is going to die down. But it's definitely interesting. But you need to see something, if you haven't seen it yet, how the twin earthquakes, the 7.2 in Venezuela and 39 seconds later the 7.5, did violently raise the coastline of Trinidad Tobago 20 feet. It looks amazing. You're on the beach and then you have a wall of beach and rocks, and it was happening so fast that marine life was completely surprised when it was lifted out of the water. They were like there in the dry. It couldn't escape. So we see stingrays buried and covered with rocks and boulders. It's crazy. You have to watch it to see the footage. I'll put it here in the end screen, and I see you there in a second, hopefully. Bye-bye.